Good morning. Welcome to our July Residence Council meeting. We'd like to call the meeting to order. We're going to be led by Harriet Chase playing our piano, America the Beautiful. So if everyone would please stand. And if you join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And now I would like Linda Teague to come up and to introduce our guest reflection speaker.
Good morning. Carol Johnston was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, and at the age of 13, her family moved to Lombard, Illinois. She graduated from Mundelein College in Chicago in 1969 and married her high school sweetheart, Jim Johnston, right after they both graduated from college. Jim graduated from Notre Dame University in 1969 and began a 3-year stint in the U.S. Army. During those years, their 2 children were born in Fort Riley, Kansas. They have a daughter, Julie, who lives in Plainfield, Illinois, and their son, Steve, lives in Virginia. Carol has 3 grown grandchildren. After the service, Carol and Jim actually moved here to Tallahassee, and Jim got a degree in library science at Florida State. When they completed that degree, they moved back to Illinois, where they lived for 35 years. During that time, Carol worked as a CPA and then a school district bookkeeper. Carol's mother, Mildred Trezza, actually moved here to Westminster Oaks in 2010, and she passed away in January of 2022, just 3 months before Carol moved into Timberlane Circle here in Westminster Oaks. Jim and Carol traveled extensively until his death in 2021. They went to some wonderful places like China, Australia, and the Holy Land. Carol continues to travel, and she loves to read, and if you see her walking around with a book in hand, you'll know that's Carol.
Thank you, Linda. C.S. Lewis said, "We are never too old to set another goal or dream a new dream." For me, Westminster Oaks has been a place where I could do just that. And when I moved here, that's exactly what I needed to do, set another goal and dream a new dream. My husband and I decided years ago that eventually we would move to Westminster Oaks. We already spent time here because my mother moved here and was here for 12 years. Unfortunately, life got in the way. When the dust settled, I was on my own. Thinking about what I might do with this new chapter of my life, I decided I wanted to make new friends. I wanted to exercise and live an active life, and perhaps volunteer. I wanted to attend activities and events. Reflecting on where I lived, I decided I was lazy. I didn't want to Google volunteer opportunities or figure out the best place to exercise or where to go to meet new people. Westminster Oaks seemed to be my answer. I had a wonderful example of the kind of life I wanted. My mom, Mildred Trezza, moved to Westminster Oaks when she was widowed. She found her new dream as part of this community. At the end, she was 86, and she met a new group of best friends. She shared her time with them and her meals. She was a lifelong advocate for volunteerism. She even volunteered at Westminster Oaks for 5 years before moving here. She lived at down the way, about 5 minutes from here. So after she had volunteered for Senator Graham for years and years, she was looking for a new opportunity, so she came here. She had told me that she preferred to do things like helping marketing or the boutique or things like that, rather than to take a healthcare resident to an event. And I think that was probably a good decision for my mom, because she was only 4'9" and 89 pounds soaking wet. When someone would ask her, "How tall are you?" she would grin and she would say, 5'9". Following her example, I'm finding the opportunities that I enjoy and that work for me. I've made wonderful new friends. I continue to travel a lot, so much so that my neighbor has asked me to let him know when I'm gone so that he can rent out my duplex. He's also very helpful with helping me with my trash bin and things like that. Timber Trail is a wonderful neighborhood. We have what we call the Friday chat, and we all get together and just talk. We also get together for things like holiday parties. I play senior tennis when I'm in town if the weather permits. I'm slowly deciding how I want to live this next chapter of my life. Take a moment and reflect on what you want to do with this chapter of your life. What is your goal, your dream? Volunteering may not fit into your dream, but there are always something that we can do to brighten the day for others. Everybody can smile and say hello, give a card to a neighbor who's under the weather, take a moment to listen to another resident when you pass them in the hall or on the sidewalk. You never know when you might meet your new best friends. Westminster Oaks offers so many opportunities for us to be part of this community. And as C.S. Lewis said, we're never too old to set a new goal or dream a new dream. Thank you.
I do have to say that I met Mildred while working in the boutique. Now, every time I'd come around to talk to her, I would say, "Mildred, you remind me of my mother," because Mildred is not a common name, but my mother's name was Mildred. And she was such a precious jewel, and we all loved Mildred. So anyway, okay, now we're going to, our board has received the minutes for our June 17th meeting, and I would ask if we have a motion to accept our minutes. So moved. A second? Second. Any question or corrections? All in favor of accepting our minutes, say aye. And the minutes accepted. Our treasurer, let's see, yes, we're doing. Our treasurer, Gary Stillwell, is under the weather, and so I've asked Lanny Cordona to give the report today.
Well, as Jane said, Gary's under the weather, and Richard's also recovering from surgery, so I'm the third team. So As you can see up here, our budgeted income, 38.25K, just over 800 total income so far. So we're 20% into the year, but we've only earned 98% of our income. Well, of course, with the boutique closed, we don't have a real good source of income for as long as it's going to be closed. And we're working on maybe 2 years or a year or more before it's all done. So it's a moving target. So we'll have to wait until Ms. Marie gets up here and tells us what's happening with that. Expenses, the budgeted expenses are 38.6, more or less. Total expenses to date are about 4,000. So we're 90% of the budget still left in terms of expenses. So we've asked all the committees to be frugal through this period when our income is very limited due to the closure of the boutique. Bank balances, you can see the general fund almost 67, the employee gift fund 31.25. A lot of that, some of that carried over from the end of last year after the gifts had already gone out, and some that trickle in the meantime, and that program will gin up again this fall. Savings 35.25, and so the total is about 133.5. Any questions? I would make a motion that, or request a motion to accept the minutes for the budget.
Do I have a motion to accept the treasurer's report? Second? All in favor, say aye. Aye. And the treasurer's report is passed. Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to ask Ms. Sandra Wiley to come up because we have quite a few new residents. This is an exciting time for our people.
Good morning. I'm always excited to get to introduce new people because they're all so special and diverse. First, we have Kathy Day. Kathy. This is Kathy. She lives in Oak South. She was born in Washington, D.C., grew up in Melbourne, Florida, which is very close to where my husband and I grew up in Cocoa Rockledge, so we have something in common there. She's the oldest of 9 siblings, and she graduated from Melbourne High, which was our nemesis, actually. And she received her BS in Business Education from Sacramento State, an MBA from the University of Arkansas. She's had a number of different jobs. First was related to NASA. She was assistant to Boeing's NASA liaison officer at the Kennedy Space Center. And she's also worked as an accountant for a CPA firm. She taught business classes, including accountancy and business writing. I learned that accountancy is not the same as accounting. It's much broader, lots of other things under that umbrella. She married in '83 her soulmate, Stephen Day. He's a physics professor and research physicist. And she was welcomed by his 6 children and an extended family that she loves and stays connected to. She lived in many different places: Sacramento, California, Denver, Colorado, Atlanta, Georgia, Fayetteville, Arkansas, Oxford, Ohio, Keowee, South Carolina, Mount Dora, Florida, Big Bend, Oregon, and now back to us in Tallahassee. As Stephen's health declined, they moved to Tallahassee in 2019, where most of Kathy's siblings and families are. They gave her helpful support throughout that time, and Stephen died May 2023. Kathy and Stephen became avid expert birders through all their international travels and stayed connected with the Audubon Society wherever they went. She loves the symphony and she and her brother already have Tallahassee Symphony tickets. She plans to attend Tallahassee Universal Unitarian Church. She loves meeting new people and wants to meet all of her neighbors here, and is excited to be joining in some selective Westminster activities, especially Ollie. So welcome, Kathy. Then we have a couple, Bob and Trudy Dial, and they live in Carefree Cove. That's right, it's an unusual spelling, but I had to write down here the way you spell the soap, so I would know how to pronounce it for you. But it's pronounced Dial. Bob grew up in Rochester, New York, Trudy in Jacksonville, Florida. They met when Trudy was an exchange student her junior year from Vassar College to Dartmouth College, where Bob was a senior. Bob has a doctorate in environmental science, Trudy a master's in public administration. Both worked in local government. They've lived in Durham, North Carolina, Syracuse, New York, Norman, Oklahoma, and finally Tallahassee in 1991. They have 2 children, Anna in Keystone Heights, Florida, and Ethan a bit farther away, Boston, Massachusetts. And they have 2 grandchildren they love to see. Bob was a member of the FSU Urban and Regional Planning faculty. And in retirement, he's active in their church community especially. Also, Capital Area Justice Ministry, Wakulla Springs Alliance, where he volunteered for some time as a riverboat tour guide. Trudy's career has involved both paid and almost full-time volunteerism. Most of that work in leadership roles in their Tallahassee congregation. She has a major focus on building community through networking and collaborative leadership and fostering deep connections among people. Don't we really need that? She also enjoys facilitating and participating in small sharing groups. Both love traveling, especially to national parks. And our top priority is to see the Canadian Rockies and the Glacier National Park before its glaciers melt any further. So that should be sooner than later. Bob and Trudy love the sense of community and the lovely green campus at Westminster Oaks. They're looking forward to meeting more residents and participating in many of the activities we offer. So welcome, Bob and Trudy. I don't think Sharon Lee was able to make it today. Sharon Lee Hagopian, and how do you say it? Hagopian. Thank you so much. I didn't get to check that with her. You're not here, are you, Sharon? Okay. So we will save that, and you can read about Sharon in the WOW. Her bio will be in there. Very interesting bio. And last but not least, we have June Noel, who is moved into Hollow Oak Circle. She's just one house away from our home, and we're so happy to have her on the circle. June was born in Savannah, Georgia, and she grew up in Thomasville, Georgia. She graduated from Thomasville High School. She has an FSU degree in social work. She spent her first 2 years in her career in Jacksonville, Florida, with a brand new program using new ways to approach poverty by helping people prepare for better jobs. She returned to Tallahassee, met Lit Noel, her husband of 39 happy years, and Lit died 14 years ago. She worked in state government programs for the elderly. She helped get a new Department of Elder Affairs. Aren't we thankful we're there now? She was Deputy Secretary of that Elder Affairs. She was Executive Director for the Florida Pepper Commission on Aging, so she knows a lot about us. She has a daughter committed to social justice projects her whole life. She's married and living on what I might call an animal farm because they have 2 dogs, 6 cats, a horse, and several rescued animals, including the turtle, I think it was. Unfortunately, they lost their son in the late 1980s. She has a Labradoodle named Boo Bear, and she, the Labradoodle, loves her home as Westminster as much as June does. And we have met this precious animal. June is a Unitarian and loves her church. She would like you to know that an Alcoholics Anonymous group has been an important part of her life. It's a remarkable program, and especially that it's restarting new meetings here at Westminster. And if anyone needs any kind of information or is interested in just talking to her, she would love to meet you and talk with you, give you more information. She's already met many wonderful people here. She appreciates helpful staff, delicious food, incredibly beautiful and well-maintained campus. Have we heard that before? And she's grateful to be here, as we all are. So, welcome, June Noel. Thank you again for your attention and your interest.
Thank you, Sandra, for all the work that you do. Attending several weeks ago in Orlando with all of the Orlando people, Shannon and I were discussing the lower level, and Chris Wickberg, who is the Vice President of Design and Construction, came to us during that meeting and said to Shannon and to me, you have to create a resident committee to look at downstairs, because this is an opportunity to look at what we have, what do we need, what changes need to be made. And so our Residence Council created an ad hoc committee, and our chair is Marie Coward. So I'm going to ask Marie Coward to come and to share the workings of our committee and give us an update.
Hi, everybody. About a year ago, I said that I was not going to chair any more committees. Well, July 1st, that changed because Jane and the members of the Resident Council asked me if I would chair this committee, and I absolutely love shaping systems. So I am very happy and honored to be chairing it, and we have an absolutely wonderful 5-member committee. We have just synced, and we work together extremely well. And the members of that committee are Carol Bruley, who's also chairing maintenance, Bob Davis, who is an architect, Robin Gray, who is our vice president, Almina Pettit, who has a lot of great ideas, and myself. Jane has also been working very, very closely with us. And what we have decided is that our work is being guided by 2 overriding principles. The first principle is we're not talking about building for today or tomorrow morning. We're talking about looking at what would be good for the lower level 20 years from now, because it may be another 20 years before Orlando Services looks at it. And the second principle that we are guided by is, can any of our spaces be multi-use spaces? And so with those 2 guiding principles, we have already had a couple of meetings. We have met with a number of department chairs. We have met with a number of residents, but we haven't heard from everybody. and we really want to. And so if you have thoughts that you'd like to share about the lower level, they can be suggestions, they can be the things you like or don't like, or something that we've never had. Maybe we need something new. We would like to hear that. So please direct your comments to any one of the members. And if anybody has any questions right now, be happy to take them. Yes, ma'am. Yeah, I don't think they made a slide for the list, but I'll be glad to repeat those members. Almina lives over across the street where you live. Almina Pettit. There she is in the back. Robin Gray is right here in the green, our vice president. Bob Davis, are you here? Well, he's hiding out, probably drinking coffee somewhere. But anyhow, he's a great listener. He lives, I believe, on Parchment Cove. Carol Bruley is right here, head of maintenance, and myself. So any of us would be happy to hear from you. Yes? Yeah, use the microphone. And that way everybody can hear.
Will there be flexibility to change the configuration of the architecture? In other words, we have long hallways, and presumably there is storage behind some, or maybe equipment. For those places that have storage, can those areas, might there be the chance to open up those areas and put storage somewhere else?
We may have flexibility. One thing that some folks may not realize is that there are two long hallways on either side of the veterans area, and those are the breezeway between Oak South and the Perry Building. If you open those walls, all you would have is dirt, because all they are is as wide as the first floor. So we can't open those, but yes, we're looking at some different uses for spaces. So I think, just think outside of the box. Anything else? Thank you.
At our last briefing meeting, we had a group that came and requested to be added to our committee structure and our activity group. And for those of you that are very active in committees, and all those, I know there are a lot of individuals who maybe are not aware of, I think, 36 activities and committees that are very active here at Westminster. We've just posted that on the Residents' Council. We're trying to keep those things up to date, but if you're not active in a committee, you might have an interest, then look at that list, and there is the chair of that committee, hopefully when they meet is indicated there in that list. So we have a document that's on the Residents' Council of all those committees. But there was a request to add a Rose Keepers committee, and I'm going to ask Everett Yarborough to come up because he's, I think, the chair of that committee. Everett, where are you? There you are.
A little bit of history. Can we have the next slide, Tegan? For those of you new and all, 3 or 4 years ago, well, this is by the breezeway going from Oak South to the Perry Center, for those of you who are not aware of it. But 3 or 4 years ago, this was a very nice rose garden, but due to COVID and other things, and Carrie Moon took good care of it, but Carrie retired and it just went away. And for a year and a half, or so, there was nothing there. They pulled up all the plants, and thanks to Shannon and Tim Osborne, we now have roses in there. The sad part about it is it's not a very good place for roses. Roses take a good 6 hours of sun every day to do well, and the trees block the sun in the morning and the building blocks the sun in the afternoon. So they're doing as well as they can with the sunlight that they get. I was in the Tallahassee Rose Society for many years and had like 36 plants around my house when I had roses at home. And when I couldn't take care of them anymore, I dug them all up and gave them away. So they had another home. But anyway, we're trying to take care of them. I'm a committee of one right now. And you see the next slide, Tegan? So anyway, we want to take good care of that. And so I can't, let's see where we, yeah, if you call me, if you love roses, call me. If you think you're an expert, call me. If you want to help, call me. And best of all, if you'd like to give us some money, please call. So anyway, we're going to do our best to take care of that, and we hope as you go by you'll enjoy them. Because they're all new, it's probably going to be next spring before they're really looking good, but they're looking pretty good now. So anyway, I'd love to have some help with that, especially if you want to give us some money. Bye.
I saw Everett the other day, and he had picked several of them, and they were very beautiful. I'm not sure who he gave them to, but anyway, they were beautiful specimens. Okay, now our executive director, not sure if Shannon's here or Vicky's going to be here. Okay, thank you.
Good morning. Yes, Shannon is away at the Leading Age Conference for the next 3 days, so appreciate you all being here and just allowing me the opportunity to go over a few things, give you a few updates, and let me know if you have any questions. So a little update on the lower level remediation. As Jane and Marie had spoke about earlier, first focus is on getting the remediation done so that we can get to those construction plans for rebuilding. So phase 2, part 1 is the area, I'm going to say from the double doors under the health center, kind of where maybe you know of Karen Oliveira's office. Those are closed off. So that whole hallway all the way down to the Wall of Honor and the clinic space, all of that is in phase 2, part 1. So that's the area they've been working on the remediation. As you know, we'd already talked about phase 1 was the maintenance area and where Paul's office is and the freezer space, all of that, what we call the dining hall as well as the maintenance. That was part of phase 1. So they already kind of did the remediation, first part of that, and now they're doing that long hallway across in the clinic area. So we're waiting on Wednesday. We should have someone back out to do air quality samples for that area. So once we've cleared those 2 areas and passed our inspection on those, which we'll have over the next week, we should get those results. Then we will have that area ready for the next phase. And then they'll move on to the next part, which would be phase 2, Part 2, which is going to be past the Wall of Honor all the way through Oak South area. Okay, so, but what we're trying to get the remediation done in this first phase and Part 1 of Phase 2 is so that then they can begin the abatement process of the asbestos that Shannon has mentioned is in the tile, below the tile flooring. Once that has started, which should be on the 22nd, if everything goes according to plan, which it has so far, that will begin on, I take that back, July 22nd and run through August 19th is the anticipated time frame. They do hope to finish sooner than that on the abatement, but they're allowing themselves that amount of time to start with. During that phase, there's absolutely no entry down there. Most people have, we're not really seeing people go through the barriers, but occasionally somebody comes down. But we just want to make sure everybody knows that absolutely must be closed off during that time. That's hazardous. Those people that are working in there are trained to do so and will be addressed accordingly to handle that project. So we just want to reemphasize that. Let's see. So we've already talked about, of course, there's a subcommittee, so we're excited about that to start looking at the reconstruction of it once all the remediation is complete. Floor care equipment was damaged during the flood, and so as many of you know and have expressed concerns about the floor care or lack thereof being done, we have ordered, we did do a project request for new floor care equipment. That all has been approved and ordered, and some of it has already started coming in. Karen Oliver and her team are working on getting everything back on track for all the floor care throughout the campus. So you should start to see some improvements there. And then I must speak of the 4-inch pumps have been ordered for the lower level, and this is to replace the 2-inch pumps that failed us back in April, which is what caused all of this to occur with the flooding of the lower level. So those are on order and will be installed as soon as they arrive. Let's see, the chiller, as you know, the temporary chiller that everybody hated is back on site, but it is working. The permanent chiller that had was up and running for a short time, the motor went out on it, so can't make this up. We did order a new motor, and it will be 6 to 8 weeks once it's shipped before it will be here and be installed. So it has been ordered, and we're in that waiting phase again. So again, we're continue to use the temporary chiller until that is back operational. Other projects going on, we have approval for the pub patio project, which will be kind of close to that rose garden. So the beautification enhancements to that area has been approved, and we're just waiting. We'll let you know more once we know more about when that's starting and so on. So stay tuned to updates probably in the weekly memo. Our memory care keyless door locks have been installed this past week. It's been a long time coming. So we're excited about that. There's still some education going on with as family members come in, making sure they understand how to use it. We have fobs to be able to access those doors. The residents of memory care are able to access it through their Tempo bracelet that they wear. And the staff members are then able to access all doors. The residents would only be able to access their door. So we're excited and appreciate the residents that contributed to be able to make that happen. Continuing on with memory care, as many of you know, Whitney, our memory care coordinator, will be leaving. We wish her well as she pursues her career in teaching at Tallahassee State College. But we are continuing our interview process. We have opened that up to if anybody has any suggestions, what they feel would make or qualities that make a good memory care coordinator, please feel free to share. You can let me know. I'm heading up the search committee. We're doing interviews, and we're proud that we do have some good candidates that we're working with. but we have not made a selection at this time. Also, Shannon wanted me to make sure you were aware that the interviews are going well for the chaplain position as well. So we'll be following up on that. Hopefully be able to have a decision soon. So good candidate there as well. Kimberly Murphy, you may remember, was one of our health resource nurses. And when Curana came about, that position was kind of on hold. But I would like to note that as of today, she is officially back as a Westminster Oaks team member as a health resource nurse. So she does not work for Curana, but she will be working closely with the team members there. Right now, her office, she is in the clinic on 4th floor and can be reached at their same extension 231, which is the clinic number. She may have a new extension soon, and if so, we will publish that in the weekly memo. But she will be doing employee health, helping residents with transition of level of care, COVID tracing, and let's see, incident reports, wellness visits. I kind of think of it as those things that are not medical needs. If you need to see the nurse for a medical need, you're going to probably see somebody with Curana if you're going to the clinic. If you're needing to see, to ask about other things or transitioning level of care or just having concerns, or if you're a neighbor and you have a concern about somebody, again, Kimberly's the person to reach out to for those things. So we're glad to have her back in that capacity. She's continuing those wellness visits, so please, call on her if you have not had a wellness visit. This year's visits started in April, and we still have people that haven't been seen. Robin Brooks has been helping us with those, and she'll continue to help Kimberly until we get those completed for this year. Let's see. And speaking, I mentioned COVID a moment ago. We've had a lot of cases of COVID. If you saw the weekly memo, you saw a huge increase last week. Not sure if it was 4th of July parties or get-togethers or what, but there is a lot of cases out there, so we do ask you to take precautions. Please call the clinic, or if you hear of somebody and says, oh, I'm not feeling well, or I think I have COVID, or I know I have COVID, to please call the clinic as their first resource. A lot of the cases that, by the time it got to me this past week, it was just different people finding out. I mean, it was either the housekeeper or the fitness center, different people finding out, and we really need to funnel all that to the clinic. So there's two parts to it. If you need to be tested, Brenda or Jessica in Curana are glad to do those testing. There's no charge for testing. If at that point, if you are positive and need treatment, they can see you for treatment or refer you to your primary physician. Or for the COVID tracing, which we're required to do per our policy and per the Department of Health, will be done by Kimberly. So again, they're in the same office, but there is an obligation that we have to complete that contact tracing information. So please let us know as soon as possible. And let's see, on a more positive note, we're going to have our team member town hall tomorrow in here, and we like to continue with our theme of our culture of happy to work here. So we do try to promote different things every month for our team members, and this month we are giving away backpacks with $25 gift cards to 50 team members to help with either, they can support either a child or a grandchild for their back to school needs this year. So we did that last year, and it was a very popular event, so we will be doing that again this year. I think that's all I have for comments. Any questions?
I have a few.
Sure.
First of all, I think the truth is very underrated these days. So what I want to say is the building is called Memory Care. There are not memory care services provided over there. That is assisted living licensure, and those are the services we get in that building. It is a contained assisted living building. It is not memory care. So y'all need to wake up and talk to our administration about that. Okay, now moving on to something I care near and dear about, which is the Greenway. I would like to know, I attended a county commission meeting July the 9th, where we were just asking the commission to have a work group with people that were interested. It was represented that Westminster, it was referred to as a retirement community. I'm looking around, that would be Westminster, who has agreed to a roundabout placed on the Greenway. To me, that's a hard stop. Had we had people at that meeting, it could have been a hard stop. But the gorilla in the room was not there. My question is, why do I seem to know more about this issue than people on the committee who did not attend July 9th? And where was the administration? This is going to take up a lot of land, and God bless anybody trying to turn left out of this facility or the neighborhoods with a roundabout not stopping traffic. So can you enlighten us why we were not at the table?
I can't. I have not
There
been
you go.
involved. Does anybody, Diane, are you aware of any?
Okay, I will tell you what I know. For the last 6 years, I think it's 2018, our Residents Council and administration has been very active in the groups that are talking about the extension through Dempsey Mayo, as well as the circle, as well as the raised pavements. Marjorie Turnbull, in the past, Bob Parker, for the last few years, was chair of that committee, and a very active committee. And they attended all of the meetings. Because our issues were primarily the raised walkways, which have been secured and placed, and has really helped, I think, with the speed. And Al Osterhoff, who did an excellent job in scientifically analyzing the speed. And so working with the commission, working with other groups, you know, we accomplished that. I think our group has been working with this major Greenway group with neighbors and people. This is what I know. I know Bob Harker, who has been very active, actually sent a response to your concern to everyone on Meandering Way and everyone in Emerald Chase, and maybe I need to send Bob Parker's response. I intend to write an article about that. But we have been involved, so to say that Westminster Residents Council and administration has not been involved is not accurate. They have been involved. Now, as not at the, was anyone there? I know Bob Bullard, is it Bullard? Ballard, he's been attending those meetings. Mary Jane has been attending, but maybe Mary Jane can clarify what I'm saying. Okay, why don't you get the microphone?
I know Bob attended another meeting that was a committee that's for a 10-year plan for the Greenway, and Westminster was supposed to have somebody attend that. I think Tim attended one of those meetings.
I definitely
Right.
know that Tim attended when
Right.
Shannon was not able to. I do understand. This is what I understand now, and this is by reading all the documents and all the things from the commission. But quite a few of the recommendations from Westminster, from the group, in terms of easements, and maybe Lanny can share more because he was more a part of it last year. You know, there were a lot of issues. When the Greenway was donated, purchased, whatever, by this company that controls the Greenway, there was an agreement that there were 4 easements to transfer to, what do you call it, to continue roads. There was one at Thornton, one at Dempsey Mayo, I'm not sure where the other two were, but. Glendale. And Thornton. So I think there was a discussion about Thornton, but they canceled that possibility. But yet, Dempsey Mayo has always been in the plans to continue through the development and as well as connecting to Centerville Road. So if you're over in Canopy and you're looking at Dempsey Mayo, you see Dempsey Mayo Road, and it comes right up to the Greenway. So in terms of that section, that easement, that has always been in the plans. So there, as I understand it, there is no ability to challenge that. It's going to happen. Now, as I understand what they voted for at the July 9th, and she can probably answer, this is how I read it, that there were suggestions about creating raised crosswalks. There was suggestions about lighted blinking, maybe stoplights for people that are crossing. And that was what was voted on 6-1, as I understand it. The adaptions. Mary Jane, is that right? That's what they voted on to make those adjustments that this group, as well as Westminster, has been making suggestions to do. Marty? Right there. Get it.
Thank you. Well, first of all, what the agenda was to ask the commission to delay and meet with these working committees. That's what the vote was about. Easement does not mean road. There are lots of different easements. That doesn't necessarily mean a road. And yes, I understand why that community would like a road to Costco. So if you don't think that they're not going to go from Leilani to Costco down Dempsey Mayo, y'all are naive. Now, just again, I'm upset because we caved. We came up with stupid, a light in a roundabout. That isn't, where has that been done? It can't be done because it makes no sense. Where's the sidewalk around a roundabout? Has anybody seen anybody walking on a roundabout? My frustration is we have 800 people on this campus. A lot of them have expressed to me how they love the Greenway, and we did nothing but harm the Greenway by agreeing to not allowing another study committee. My husband is an attorney. I am surrounded by attorneys. Even Eric Draper got up and said, an easement is not a road.
I think Al has, would someone bring the microphone to Al?
I think a number of statements which are being made here are really not recognizing the work which precedes, as was already stated, have taken place over years since 2018, probably before that. Those easements were established. There's locked in. Yes, they were intended.
Easement.
A roadway was a clear understanding in terms of what was going to go in there.
Understanding.
Now, the meeting which you're talking about at the county commission was covered in the Tallahassee Democrat and other media. One of the things that happened there is that the county commission made some further controls on exactly what will happen there. Dempsey Mayo was narrowed in terms of its width, bringing it from 12 feet down to 10-foot lanes, which would be a way of slowing traffic. An important issue with there is that they've added a way of providing a control where the Greenway pathway crosses the extension of the Dempsey Mayo through there. And that control will consist of a red light which stops traffic when horses or bicycles or pedestrians choose to cross there, and that was not part of what was there. That will be part of the plan there. Now, one interesting thing to recognize with all of this is that part of what's happening in Weelaunee is a very extensive senior center is being built there. And the relevance there is, one, a number of facilities which we enjoy here will be expanded upon there and available to us and other seniors in the Tallahassee community. It's close to us if, in fact, that roadway is there. If that roadway is there, not there, it's a much longer way. There are pathways in addition to the road which are part of the plan, if you would look at those, and those have been discussed. And there's sidewalks that can accommodate things in addition to walking, such as golf carts, such as bicycles out here, that will extend from our community over to the senior center.
How are you going to get across Miccosukee Road?
I'm sorry, what?
How are you going to get across Miccosukee Road?
With a crosswalk. And the crosswalk will be a raised crosswalk like we have out in front of our entrances, okay? Those things are locked in. There are benefits to this community of that going through there. If they don't go through there, there is a longer way to get to the senior center, which the only way to get to it will be by vehicle along Miccosukee, which has no sidewalks and cannot have any sidewalks here. It really is to our benefit to have what's going through there. And the issue that you're raising that nothing has been happening is Westminster Oaks, both the administration and the Residents Council, have been involved with that extensively for a number of years. Now, you have to recognize that.
I only recognize that certain people were involved in this. Can we raise hands in this room how many people knew this greenway was happening? There you go. So why didn't we know about the meeting on July the 9th?
Well, I imagine there's a number of things.
And let me just say how sad I find that because there's a senior citizen built over there, that we're going to go ahead and make this kind of decision for future generations. I find it abhorrent. I find it very sad. We are not the only people on Miccosukee. By the way, I spoke to the sheriff about all the semi-trucks, everything racing down Miccosukee. Do you know they can't monitor it because there's nowhere to stand for radar? That is a road that is not monitored in Tallahassee.
Well, over time, a number of people have been involved, and the issue is much broader than either you or me.
Oh, well, I guess I've been put in my place. Thank you.
Thank you, Al. Any further comments? Issues?
I think it's great about the new health office here, but until Friday afternoon, we were not given a number that we could use on the weekend, and that was a question I asked as soon as we heard about Corona. Is that the? And thank goodness for Vicki. Thank you, Vicki. Is somebody she's somebody we can really depend on. But all right, so anyway, Friday afternoon, everybody goes home. There is not a way in the world that we can get tested for COVID. Oh, wonderful, they're gonna test us and it's free.
Mhm.
Who's here?
Right. And you did mention about the phone number. They have new signage up with a number on it, and it goes through a series of prompts. But that gets you, I believe, to their telehealth, to someone who can advise you on that. There's still home kits available and things like that. Some people are testing at home, but if you do need to see someone, then let them know. Again, they are, as far as on-site to do those tests, yes, they're here Monday through Friday to do those. But you can, they're 9 to 4 is their hours in the clinic. Yeah. They're actually will test you. I do believe they mentioned as well at a previous forum that they will come to you if you need them to. If you're symptomatic and think you may have COVID, they will come to your home or apartment. During their hours, again, if you want to be tested on the weekend, they can do telehealth visits, but they can't test you, obviously, physically do that. They could maybe walk you through a process or something if you have a home kit or have questions about it, if you called their number for the telehealth. Yes, ma'am. Oh, you need a mic. Just a moment.
I know of a resident that tried Friday afternoon at 3 o'clock, called, there was no answer, left a message, got no return call, and she did have, or does have COVID. and
Okay.
she wasn't part of your count.
Okay. I do know that Brenda was probably on the phone because on Friday afternoon, we had, I think, 10 IL resident cases within a matter of a couple of hours. So people were coming to the door. She was on the phone doing contact tracing. So she was there. She was there very late Friday, trying to get these completed because we had a few team members that somebody was working on. We had 16 to do Friday. I knew of those as of 5 o'clock. She sent me stuff after that. She was still working on a few more that she had gotten more calls. So I apologize that they didn't get through to her, and she was the only one there, but she was probably on the phone with other residents doing contact tracing. But thank you for letting know. Hopefully that person has been able to get through to someone. Kimberly and Brenda are in the office today, and we'll get their information if they haven't. Any other questions? All right. Oh, she's coming with a mic.
Just one more comment about the Dempsey Mayo extension. And I hope I'm not stating the obvious, but it doesn't sound to me like we have a firm position on the options available. In other words, there are options about whether there's a roundabout, whether there's a light, sidewalks, and so on. You're not going to affect change unless there's a consensus, clear position on each of those options. And following that, you're not going to have change unless people show up to support that consolidated position. Thank you.
I am not a member of the committee. I'm just a person, a resident who comes to these meetings. Bob Parker has faithfully reported details to us. They did a lot of literature research on pedestrian versus vehicular safety of roundabouts. I was a person, and I partially still am, who doubts the safety of a roundabout for a pedestrian, but they have found research that identifies how to build a roundabout for pedestrian safety. If you will talk to members of the committee, Al Ustroff has already spoken. Bob Parker, when he's in town, not traveling at summertime, I think that you will learn a lot about the work that they have done.
We will be asking Marjorie, who's on vacation right now, and hopefully will be back soon, to make a presentation at our next meeting, because Marjorie has been very active. Marjorie, who was a former commissioner here, and she has now taken over the committee, of which Al and Bob are still members, and I think Mary Jane and Bob Ballard, okay, I'm sorry, who have been very active in attending. So I know it's an issue that we all care about and think about, and we read in the paper, and so we need to, now that we have others that are really aware of the situation, and if you want to get involved, then you attend the county commission meetings. So, but I do believe we will get a better informed response from Marjorie when she's back.
You kind of answered one of my questions, is even though we have the committee members, we don't know. I mean, I don't know where to look to find out what they found out. It's not in, I can't find it anywhere.
Well, there were articles in the paper.
Yes, I know in the paper, but I mean with Westminster, so that we could make a unified.
Well, it's on My W Life. There's a thorough, probably 100-page report of the Dempsey Mayo ad hoc Dempsey Mayo project under Residence Council. Under Residence Council.
Does that tell us, though, the options? These, raised sidewalks, and it does.
Well, I'm.
Yeah, okay.
We can't hear. We need a microphone.
I'm just saying, it was my understanding that at the onset of this, we wanted a stoplight there. And the commissioners made the decision that we would not have a stoplight. It would be a roundabout. And there was an extensive amount of research done. And I think there is a report.
If you look at the 14-page agenda item that was attached to the commission agenda, which I scanned, it gives you the historical perspective over the years and all of the research that has been found in terms of the safety of a roundabout as compared to a light. So if you want good reading, look up the county commission, look at the agenda, and look. And I actually have it. I can send that to you. But it's the agenda 19, I think, on the commission. But it's a 14-page document. So that's all I know. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. You okay?
I didn't get my question in earlier when you were talking about the treasurer's report. I was delighted to see that we have taken in $800+ for the council or something. I was not aware that any money was made other than the boutique, so I'm just curious where we got the $800. Thank goodness. Can we have some light, shed some light on where that income came from?
Lanny? The copier in the library, although I don't think, I think there might be some delayed payments and so maybe that's the income, because the boutique was open, through May, June, July, June, whenever. No. Yeah, we were open until they closed us down. When did they close us down? I think in, the flood happened in May. We continued working through June, so maybe that's, the income. Well, we could clarify that with Gary, but I wondered about that too. But there is income from, so if you need copies, come into the library. That's where we're making our money now. Lanny had some comments.
I mentioned this to the resident council at our briefing meeting, and you all should have gotten in your cubbies a week or so ago, the second quarter 24 resident connection from FLACRA. There's two important articles in there. One was about the bankruptcy that happened in Tampa, what brought that about, and how it could have an effect on all kinds of communities. The one that's on most people's mind is fees. We're fixing to start into the next budget cycle, and there's a 2-page article in here. Florida's 125% surge in property tax insurance bills shows havoc. It's going to affect us because we have property insurance like everybody else. So not being aware of what's going on in the greater economy, on the price of food, the price of gas, the price of insurance, those things do affect us through our monthly fees. So if you want to know what's really going on, is to read and find out what is happening in the broader aspects of the CCRCs in the state of Florida. And FLACRA has made a good article for this, so please look it up. Thank you.
One thing I mentioned that I learned about Westminster and their budgets, Corona, as we talked about before, is a for-profit company that's all over the United States. But it has really benefited us in terms of actually providing us with an urgent care facility, with our nurse practitioner, with more efficient, I think, care for our residents. But as I understand it, and Vicki can correct me, when someone uses home health, now that is owned now by Westminster. So the profits, is that correct? So home care business that's just been started here, as well as the pharmacy. We're always asking people to transfer, if you can, if it's something that you would like to do, because it is a profit for Westminster because it is owned by Westminster. So, if you notice in the 5 focus areas that we had a big discussion last time, and that is direction of Westminster, and one of those is to acquisitions and businesses and trying to accrue money for Westminster, which in the end, as I understand it, not being an accountant, would augment raising of a lot of the prices. So it's all in that big picture of that financial report that comes out that sometimes we understand and sometimes we don't, but we do know there are rising costs. But I did want to just sort of clarify that because I didn't quite have an understanding of those organizations that have come in to work with us. Any other questions for the good of the cause? Thank you and have a great day.
You are extremely good.
Oh.
I am so